Charles stood frozen at the doorway, his breath caught in his throat. The room that had once felt heavy with an inexplicable tension was now filled with the sounds of guttural cries and manic laughter. The woman, no, the creature, before him was no longer the radiant beauty he had encountered earlier. Her face was grotesquely distorted, her once luminous eyes now dark pits of malice. His torn Bible lay on the couch, a painful reminder of why he had returned. The serpent of fear coiled tightly around his chest, but anger began to rise within him. He had left her here, vulnerable. He had abandoned his post, not as a pastor, but as a man with a task to complete. And now he faced the consequences. The demon-possessed woman twisted on the floor, her limbs contorting in unnatural ways. She growled like a cornered beast, her voice layered with something inhuman. "You should have stayed away, Charles." A deep, guttural voice rumbled from her throat, not her own. "But now you're here, and you're mine." Charles took a shaky step forward, his gaze darting between the woman and the Bible. "I am not yours," he said, his voice firmer than he felt. "And I will not leave her like this." The demon laughed, a cruel, echoing sound that made the walls seem to vibrate. "Oh, but you've already failed. Do you think you were chosen for this because you're worthy? You're weak. A fraud. Look at you, barely holding yourself together." The creature sneered. "Do you even believe in the God you invoke?" Charles faltered. The words struck too close to home. He had spent years questioning his faith, questioning his purpose. He wasn't a pastor, not really, just a man going through the motions, afraid to confront his own flaws. The demon knew this, and it weaponized his doubt. But something stirred within him. Perhaps it was guilt, or maybe it was the memory of the woman's pleading eyes before she had fallen into this darkness. Whatever it was, it gave him the strength to move. He lunged for the Bible on the couch, snatching it up as the demon let out a guttural scream. "You don't scare me," Charles said, more to himself than to the entity. He opened the battered book, flipping frantically through its pages, searching for a verse that would anchor him. His hands trembled, but his voice grew steadier as he began to read. "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." The demon screeched, its form writhing as Charles's voice grew louder. He walked toward her, clutching the Bible like a sword. The woman's face shifted between her true form and the monstrous visage, a horrifying blend of beauty and terror. "You can't have her," Charles shouted. "She belongs to God." The climax hit as the woman let out an ear-piercing scream, the sound so sharp it forced Charles to his knees. He clung to the Bible, continuing to pray even as his ears rang. The room seemed to shake, the air growing thick and hot. Suddenly, everything went still. The woman collapsed, her body limp and lifeless. Charles crawled toward her, his heart pounding. Are you okay?" he whispered, his voice hoarse. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, he thought she was back to normal. But then, she smiled, a cold, knowing smile that sent a chill down his spine. "You did well," she said, her voice eerily calm. "But it's not over." Charles froze. Before he could respond, the front door slammed shut behind him. He spun around, but no one was there. When he turned back to the woman, she was gone. The room was empty, save for the echo of her parting words. Confused and shaken, Charles stumbled out of the house. He didn't stop running until he was blocks away, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? What had just happened? And why had he been chosen for this? As he rounded the corner, he stopped to catch his breath. He reached into his pocket to grab his phone and call his pastor, but his fingers brushed against something else. Frowning, he pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't his. Opening it, he found a single line scrawled in elegant handwriting. "This is only the beginning." Charles's heart sank. Whatever he had faced tonight wasn't over. It was only the first step in a journey he hadn't signed up for, a journey that would force him to confront not just the darkness in the world, but the shadows within his own soul. As he walked into the night, clutching the Bible like a lifeline, one thing became clear. He couldn't run anymore. Not from the task at hand, and not from himself.